It's 1963. The gang's assembled, the plan has been meticulously drawn up, and every member knows their role to the last second. After months of secret meetings and careful reconnaissance, the stage is set for the greatest heist in British history, the Royal Mail train robbery. Now the moment has come to put the plan into motion. After weighing every detail, the gang chose the night of the 8th of August 1963 for the operation. It was a clear, moonless night, a time when darkness offered both cover and clarity. The calm weather was a blessing, ensuring smooth travel on the winding rural roads of Buckinghamshire and reducing the risk of unexpected delays. The clear skies also allowed for the precision execution of their carefully timed moves. That evening, the gang gathered at their designated rendezvous point. In a move designed to blend in, they donned military-style uniforms. Their attire weren't just for show, it conveyed discipline, order and the appearance of an organised military unit. This camouflage helped them to pass unnoticed, even as they prepared for an high-risk operation. At the appointed hour, the gang set out in a convoy of nondescript vehicles, each chosen for its reliability and ability to navigate the lesser-known routes. Led by the seasoned driver Roy James, the convoy moved in formation along quiet back roads, avoiding major highways and sticking to routes that minimised any chance of detection. The vehicles, disguised as military vehicles with their unassuming exteriors and uniformed drivers, contributed to an overall appearance of discipline and order rather than criminal intent. The departure was executed with precision. Every member of the gang knew exactly where they were headed and why. They split into specialised teams once they reached the outskirts of town. One team, led by Bruce Reynolds, was tasked with positioning themselves near Bradeo Bridge, the critical intercept point along the Royal Mail train's route. Another group, including Ronnie Biggs, was assigned to liaise with the train driver, ensuring the gang could take control of the train. Meanwhile, the getaway team, with Roy James at the helm, was poised in a separate vehicle formation, ready to launch a swift escape in the moment the heist was underway. The choice of the 8th of August weren't arbitrary. The clear and calm conditions that night were crucial. With a calm breeze and no fog or rain to impede their movement, the gang could rely on their precise timings without worrying about weather-related complications. Every second counted in this high-stakes game, and the favourable conditions helped cement their confidence. The military-style disguises and the orderly convoy further reinforced the precision of their plan. It weren't just a robbery, it was a carefully orchestrated operation planned down to the smallest detail. As they left the familiarity of London behind, every member of the gang understood the enormity of what they was about to attempt, and each felt the weight of history in the making. At precisely the appointed hour, the gang splits into specialised teams. Under the leadership of Roy James, the getaway drivers take the position in the convoy, while Bruce Reynolds and his tactical group move steadily towards the critical intercept point along the tracks. Just as planned, the Royal Mail train appears on the horizon around 2:30 am, running exactly on schedule. The atmosphere is charged with anticipation as the train nears Bradeo Bridge. Reynolds' team, already concealed by natural cover, dense hedgerows and low-lying terrain, prepare for the decisive moment. At the pre-arranged signal point, a key team member steps forward. In a feat of calculated precision, he reaches the railway signal. Rather than constructing a fake signal, the gang cleverly modified the existing one. With deliberate care, he covers the green light with a glove, effectively blocking its view. At the same time, he connects a 6-volt battery to the red light, causing it to glow as though it was genuinely activated. Within seconds, the driver, relying on the signal as a matter of routine, brings the train to a sudden halt. As the train grinds to a stop in the darkness, chaos and precision collide. One team, led by Buster Edwards, swiftly moves towards the mail van. With practiced efficiency, they breach the compartment and subdue the postal workers. The shocked employees, caught off guard by the rapid unfolding of events, offer little resistance. In the ensuing moments, the gang works with clockwork precision. Sacks of banknotes, 120 in total, are quickly offloaded and loaded into the waiting vehicles. However, not everything goes to plan. A critical hiccup arises when the train's driver, the man recruited by Ronnie Biggs, known to us just as Pop, finds himself overwhelmed by the modernity of the locomotive. The train driver, already reeling from a sudden halt, had been struck by an heavy blow. Reports say he was hit with a blunt instrument, leaving him badly injured and barely coherent. In a moment of grim necessity, the gang forces him to take the controls again. The tension among the criminals rises as doubts emerge about his ability to operate the engine while clearly injured, yet time is a luxury they do not have. Meanwhile, another team maintains perimeter security, ensuring no one from the outside can interfere. Throughout the operation, communications are kept crisp and clear, and signals and pre-arranged close ensure that every member knows exactly when to move and what to do next. The entire offloading process is a well-rehearsed routine, executed in less than 30 minutes from the moment the train stops. Once every sack is secured, the getaway begins. Roy James and his convoy take over, weaving through the dark winding roads of Buckinghamshire. The drive is tense, every second pulses with adrenaline. Inside the vehicles, the mood is a mixture of hushed concentration and barely contained exhilaration. There's little banter, only the sound of engines roaring and the occasional whispered word of encouragement as they navigate the deserted countryside. At the scene, as the convoy disappears into the night, chaos remains. The injured driver, still in the cab, is left in a state of shock and pain, while the subdued postal workers huddle together in disbelief. The remnants of the operation serve as a stark reminder that even the most meticulously executed plan carries inherent risks. In just half an hour, the gang has transformed an ordinary night into a masterstroke of criminal precision. With the cash now safely loaded into the vehicles, their escape to Leatherslade Farm, approximately a 15-mile drive through quiet rural roads, awaits. The journey promises both relief and uncertainty, as every mile takes them further from the scene of the heist and deeper into the murky aftermath of their bold operation. As the chaos of the heist unfolded along the dark tracks near Bridale Bridge, the first signs of trouble began to emerge. Within minutes, the train's sudden halt, whispered, turned to urgent calls. According to local witness statements, a nervous railway porter, alarmed by the unexpected stop and the ensuing commotion, managed to alert the station master. The station master, recognising that something was seriously amiss, placed an urgent call to the police. Though the exact chain of events is shrouded in confusion that night, records from the area suggest the officers were dispatched and arrived at the scene around 3:15 a.m. Yet by that time, their gang's well-orchestrated plan had already shifted into its next phase. With the heist now complete and the convoy racing away into the dark countryside, the gang's next move was to disappear into the shadows, and that meant Leatherslade Farm. Tucked away in the remote countryside of Buckinghamshire, the farmhouse was chosen for its isolation and promised a temporary refuge from the storm that was sure to follow. Upon arrival at the farm, the atmosphere was one of intense relief mixed with a palpable tension. The gang had planned to remain at the farm to count the money, secure their stolen cash, and lay low until the immediate heat of the investigation began to subside. Every member was acutely aware of its stakes. In this hideout, discretion and operational security were paramount. Bruce Reynolds, ever the strategist, took the opportunity to get some much needed rest, while some of the others immediately set to work. The first order of business was to unload the convoy. The vehicles, chosen for their indescript profiles, were parked in a secluded barn, hidden behind some buildings. Meanwhile, in the main house, teams gathered around makeshift tables in a large, sparsely furnished room. Here, in the dim, early light, they began a painstaking process of counting the money. Piles of banknotes were spread out and meticulously tallied. Every sack was scrutinised. They all turned out to be even more enormous than they had dared to hope. Amid a flurry of calculations and quiet murmurs of disbelief, the significance of their success began to sink in. Throughout the hideout, strict protocols were enforced. Bruce Reynolds had been unequivocal. Gloves were to be worn at all times. This simple yet critical rule was drilled into every member. No one was to leave behind any fingerprints or traces that could later be linked back to them. Every envelope, every cash sack, every surface that was touched was either cleaned or handled with a pair of gloves on. It was an exercise in forensic caution that underscored the gravity of their operation. Leatherslade Farm itself was a study in contrasts. The old farmhouse, with its weathered stone walls and creaking wood floors, stood amidst vast stretches of open farmland, where fields rolled out under grey overcast sky. The isolation of the farm offered safety, but also magnified the sense of vulnerability. Here in the quiet of the countryside, every sound seemed amplified, every distant siren a harbinger of impending doom. Yet despite the tension, there was a brief, almost surreal moment of celebration. Some members exchanged subdued congratulations, congratulating themselves as they meet in the hallway. In those fleeting moments, the enormity of what they had accomplished was acknowledged. They was elated, but even as they smiled, there was an undercurrent of fear. The realisation of how big a job they'd just executed, and the risk that still lay ahead, left them both proud and deeply uneasy. As the hours passed, the team not only counted and divided the money, but also meticulously planned their next moves. They reviewed every detail of the operation, double checking that every trace of their presence had been erased, the vehicles was hidden, the cash secured, and contingency plans for dispersal was laid out. The farmhouse, far removed from the urban chaos of London, became their temporary command centre, a place where the promise of fortune was tempered by the harsh reality that they were now targets of a relentless police pursuit. In the quiet of that secluded farm, with every precaution in place and every detail accounted for, the gang prepared for the next phase. They knew that their temporary sanctuary at Leatherslade Farm would not last forever. Soon, the hunt would intensify, and they would be forced to disperse, each member facing the uncertainty of life on a run. But for now, in those tense, brief hours of respite, they allowed themselves a moment to savour their success and brace for the inevitable consequences of their audacity. In our next episode, we'll see how the fallout began, how the authorities responded to the shock of the heist, and how the gang struggled to hold on to their newly won freedom in the face of an unrelenting pursuit. Until then, the memory of that fateful night at Leatherslade Farm will linger as a testament to ambition, caution, and the razor's edge between triumph and disaster. Thank you for joining me at London's Dark Archives. I sincerely hope you found this episode on a great train robbery both intriguing and enlightening. It ain't escaped my notice that we've welcomed a wonderful surge of new viewers and subscribers, and I'd like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who tunes in to hear these captivating stories, along with a very special thank you to all my dedicated subscribers. Take care, and I look forward to returning with the next enthralling instalment very soon.